Hey everybody, new video today from the last episode of JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association. This is really fascinating article about the nocebo effect. And so maybe you guys have heard of a placebo. A placebo is like a pill that has no medicine in it that takes the place of an actual medicine. And so in this study, what they did was they took a bunch of people, 60 people, who said that when they take a particular cholesterol medicine, that it causes severe muscle pain. And they gave them 3 alternating treatments: no pill at all, a sugar pill with no medicine in it, and then the actual medicine. And they kind of over a year randomly took either no pill or the sugar pill or the actual medicine. And they wrote down in like a smartphone app, like how bad was their pain and that kind of stuff. And so the story tells this very interesting story of this one patient who at one point was having pain so badly from one of the pills that he couldn't get out of bed. And then, the other pill and no pill was fine. And when after they unblinded it, it turned out that he was taking the sugar pill, which had no medicine in it, when he was having the worst pain. And it turned out that 90% of the time, when people were having pain that they thought was from the pill, it turned out to be not from the actual medicine at all. And so a negative symptom while you're taking no medicine at all or a placebo is called a nocebo effect, a negative symptom, a adverse response to a placebo pill. And the article goes on to talk about how if somebody expects to have a symptom or an adverse effect, it's very likely that they will, whether they're taking the placebo or whether they're taking the actual medicine. And I just found this to be very similar to my own experience. If somebody comes into my program, for example, to take the Suboxone, and they don't want to take it, they're like court ordered or forced to by, circumstances, like they used to be taking oxycodone and then they're booted out of their practice because they were taking too much of it or they had a dirty urine or whatever, and it wasn't their idea, they almost always have side effects from the buprenorphine. If somebody calls me up and says, I'm in trouble, I need help, I need to get off of heroin or oxys or whatever, they almost always have a great response to buprenorphine. And that difference of the motivation and the anticipation of negative consequences to the medication is what's known as the nocebo effect. And so the article goes on to say that if you appropriately educate people about, hey, this, whatever medicine, this blood pressure pill or this cholesterol medicine or whatever might have these effects, you're much more likely to cause those effects in the patient versus just telling them, listen, this medicine is very safe, there's very few side effects which are not life-threatening. Take the medicine, but not be too specific about it, because you may plant the seeds for what's known as a nocebo effect. And as this one cholesterol medicine study showed, 90% of the time when people had those adverse effects, it had nothing to do with the medicine at all. And so from my experience, this also has to do something with people's response to recovery work. All right, so if you are, and this goes back to my previous video about getting your head on straight about taking Suboxone, if you have a negative opinion about going to recovery, like you feel like it's punishment, or if you feel like even taking the buprenorphine is, further evidence of, if you overall have a negative attitude towards recovery or buprenorphine, you're going to have side effects. It's not going to work as well. You're not going to be invested in it. It's just, it just really bungs everything up. So, don't plant the seeds of failure for yourself. Don't focus on the negatives of going to a meeting, seeing a counselor, doing whatever. You have to focus on the positives. For myself, if I and I just did this recently because I was talking to a patient about this. I was talking about doing recovery, and then I knew I was going to exercise during lunch hour, right? And I was explaining to her that when I exercise, it makes me less irritable, more relaxed. It certainly helps with my tight hamstrings and just some other physical problems that I have. It makes me feel better. So I started exercising like an hour later with this positive kind of attitude in my head about how beneficial the exercise is. And you know what? It was a hell of a lot easier than the last time I exercised, which I had been up the night before delivering a baby, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have the energy. I didn't get enough sleep. Just like got into it, and I couldn't do as many reps. I felt more out of breath, whatever. No significant difference in the actual exercise routine, but my entry attitude was radically different. And so, I don't want to belabor the point here, but the experience of negative outcomes, not able to exercise as much because of a poor attitude, not connecting with your counselor because of an anticipated problem with not connecting with your counselor, having a negative attitude towards the medicine, thinking that the whole idea of getting into a chemical dependency program is not your idea, you're resentful and angry about the whole thing. These things are going to lead to adverse outcomes. Positive attitude, positive outcomes. Actually, for those of you who've seen me for obstetrical care, a lot of the times, we start out labor and delivery or whatever with some problem. The baby's kind of big, or the fluid's low, or whatever. And of course, the anxiety about, this is not going to work well, becomes a really driving force of the whole experience of labor and delivery. And so I tell people many times, positive attitude, positive outcomes, and that that just works out well. We had a baby the other day, low fluid. Mom obviously very concerned about how labor is going to go, and we really focused on this works out the vast majority of the time. We're going to monitor the situation. We are not going to have a baby in poor health. Just really reinforcing the fact that we're monitoring the situation, the baby's in good health, whatever. And, we resulted in, of course, a good experience, vaginal delivery, whatever, because I think that she really focused on, the positives rather than really focusing on the negatives. I know, just another example of the same concept. So focus on the positive attitude, positive outcomes. Don't booby trap your life in the future by focusing on the negatives, because you very likely will experience the negative outcome that you fear. Which is, of course, a very tricky, mind game that you can, and there's another way to say that, but I'm not going to say it in this video, that you can kind of set yourself up for failure. So that's my message today about this nocebo effect. It's not just the pills, it's every life experience has that nocebo effect. If you go into it anticipating that there's going to be problems, you're going to get it. So good luck to you. Positive attitude, positive outcomes. Okay. Have a good one.